Welcome to my life beyond the brand. I'm Miss Muthoni Njoroge, a multi-award winning personal branding and LinkedIn expert. This is where we go beyond the brand and into the real, intentional life behind it all. I woke up slowly, and I want to be honest. I did not leap out of bed with a motivational speech playing in my head. I made my bed, turned on my lights, and looked at my room, really looked at it. Your bedroom is the first environment you encounter every single day. A made bed, a lit room, a space that reflects order and care. That is you telling your subconscious first thing in the morning. There's something profoundly symbolic about opening curtains at the start of a reset day. You're letting light in. You're signaling, I am open, I am ready, I am not hiding from this day, or from an honest look at my ear. Before any planning, any deep work, I took care of this body, because your body is not a vessel you drag around while your brilliant mind does all the work. Your body is the infrastructure, and you do not build on infrastructure you have neglected. Put on my grey jumpsuit. Getting dressed, even at home, changes how you think. When I look the part, I play the part. On a day about planning the second half of my year, I wanted to show up as the woman I am building toward. Not a tired version, but the version I am becoming. Then skincare. Maya Angelou said, "Nothing will work unless you do." I extend that to nothing about you will hold up unless you maintain it. I went to the kitchen to take my supplements, and I include this deliberately because the small, consistent, daily choices are the architecture of your life. Nobody talks about supplements in a reset vlog. Everybody talks about vision boards, but the woman who takes her supplements, drinks her water, moves her body, sleeps at a decent hour, she has already built the foundation. And the foundation is your health. Never neglect it. I folded laundry, put my yellow fleece blanket on my bed, organized my closet, and I want to tell you why this mattered. A media reset is not just a mental exercise. A true reset involves your physical environment because your space holds energy. And when you walk into a space that is cluttered, Jim Rohn said, "Your life does not get any better by chance. It gets better by change." And then the main event, resetting my home office and studio. This is where the brand comes to life, so I treat it accordingly. I moved things, I rearranged, swept the carpet, repositioned the desk, set up lights and tripods. I spent real time in here because I believe deeply perception is positioning, and positioning determines pricing. That principle is not just about how the world sees you. It starts with how you see yourself. The environment you create is a direct reflection of how you value your own work. When your workspace is intentional, you think bigger in it. You operate at the level you are called to. This is not about luxury, but this is about alignment. Your environment should match your vision. If there's a gap, close it. That is exactly what I was doing, closing the gap between where I was and where I am going. I stepped onto my balcony. The morning had already done something to me. The room was reset. The office was reset. The body was tended to. Now it was time to reset the most important thing, the mind. I set up the balcony, then went back to make my tea. Sufuria on the fire, Stanley cup ready, honey waiting, and I want to talk about the ritual of it. Because on a reset day, everything is a ritual, not a routine. A routine is something you do on autopilot. A ritual is something you do with presence and intention. I was not just making tea, I was preparing myself for one of the most important conversations I would have all year, the one with myself about my year. This is the heart of the entire vlog. I sat on my balcony with my tea, my planner, my iPad, and I did my mid-year review and planning. Mid-year is a checkpoint. It's not a verdict or a place to shame yourself for what you have not done. It is a place to be honest, strategic, and kind to yourself as you recalibrate. So I asked myself the questions that matter. What have I actually accomplished in the first 6 months? Not what I planned, what actually happened. What changed? What shifted? What did I learn about myself, about my business, about what I actually want? And then, what do I want the second half of this year to look like? What would make December feel like a win? You see, Tony Robbins said, setting goals is the first step in turning the invisible into the visible. But I would add, reviewing your goals honestly is what keeps them from staying invisible. You have to look, you have to reckon, you have to be willing to say, this is where I am, this is where I want to be, and this is what I am committed to doing differently. After my planning session, I took myself out. Trench coat on, bag packed, sneakers laced, and I left. Because sometimes a change of environment is the final unlock. You have done the internal work. Now you need a different setting to let it breathe. I went to Romo House, one of my favorite spots, because your environment is always communicating something. Romo House communicates taste, care, and quality, and I like to put myself in environments that reflect where I am going. I had my hot chocolate, ordered food, and worked. Drafted content, continued planning. Some people will say that is not a rest day, but intentional work at your own pace in a beautiful space. That is not the opposite of rest. That is joy. Know the difference between work that depletes and work that fulfills. Chase the latter. Yes, I am. Yes, but I won't have this. I don't take chili. Coming home after a full reset day has a very particular feeling. You walk through your door and the space receives you differently because you left it differently. I walked in, the light came on, I looked around and I felt proud. Not arrogant, just proud. There's a quiet pride that comes from a day well spent. Chase that feeling. You see, transitions matter. Coat off, bag away, music on, hands washed. That sequence tells my nervous system, you are home, you are safe, you can exhale. Create a transition ritual. It will change your evenings. And unboxed my new pajamas and smiled because new pajamas on a reset day are the most fitting metaphor. Literally clothing yourself in something fresh as you close one chapter and step into the next. I danced in the mirror, showered, and let the day wash off. Then my evening skincare. Every step unhurried. It is not just about your skin, it is a conversation with yourself at the end of the day. You are saying you did well, you showed up, you deserve this care. Every woman building something significant needs to know how to speak to herself kindly at the end of a full day. You cannot pour endlessly. The most sustainable builders are not the ones who work the hardest. They're the ones who have mastered the rhythm. Work and rest. Output and input. Push and pause. Your media reset is not a luxury. It is something you make time for because the cost of not doing it is a second half of the year running on fumes. You deserve a full tank, a clear map, a rested mind. The year is still yours. Half of it is still unwritten. Extraordinary is not a gift, it is a decision. Make it. I ended my day in my home office. I looked at the space, neat, lit, intentional, and I picked up my book because even the ending of a full day deserves beauty. This office, this chandelier, this space, it represents the decision to build something on purpose, to take your work seriously enough to make a beautiful home for it. Perception is positioning, and positioning determines pricing. Build a life that positions you exactly where you're called to be. That is my media reset. That is episode 5 of Beyond the Brand. That is how I choose to live intentionally, audaciously, and always with purpose.